Statues of slave owners. Do we tear them down or do we let them stand? If we let them stand, are we honoring slaveholders or simply acknowledging our history? If we tear them down, are we ignoring what actually happened or are we just getting rid of some really bad symbols? Welcome to What the Heaven. My name is Patrick, and every week I answer questions just like this that people send me in my comments down below, on Instagram, and even via email. Today I want to tell you three things. First of all, there were times in the Bible when people destroyed structures. I want to look at that. Secondly, I want to talk about what Christians should do because of that. And then finally, I'm going to change the way you look at statues for the rest of your life. Also, I'm going to have some censored images. We're going to kind of get PG-13 here. It'll be weird. That's the second time that's happened in my series. But the first thing I'm going to do is ask you a question. Should Christians be political or not? All of this got started in 2017 when the Charlottesville, Virginia City Council voted to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee and rename the park that his statue is in. In one of the darkest days in recent history, the Unite the Right event was met by counter-protesters and the conflict reached a climax when one of the white nationalists drove their car through a crowd of protesters, killing a young woman named Heather Heyer. Many people want to do what Charlottesville did in 2017. They want to take down the statues that seem to honor the Confederacy or that seem to honor people who owned slaves. Other people, they argue that the statues symbolize the history, the past of America, and that those men were more than slave owners. So what should Christians do? Should Christians even get involved? This is political. So should we stay out? If you're a Christian, there's no such thing as a political situation. If you're a Christian, everything is spiritual. Everything has eternal significance. If there is an issue anywhere in the world that is dealing with a creation of God, it's a spiritual issue and we should be involved. Let's go way back in time and see how this actually has a weird, kind of dirty connection with the Bible. The Old Testament is filled with times where the Israelites love God, then ditch God, and then eventually realize, oh, we just ditched the God of the universe, and they go back to him. But during the times that they're not following God, they worship a whole bunch of other fake gods. By the way, I'm about to get kind of PG-13 here. They worshipped a fertility goddess named Ashera, and we're not really sure if it was a separate religion or if people kind of worship God and Ashera, if Ashera was kind of like the Israelites' side chick. We're not really sure. But when you worship Ashera, you built a pole. And what were these poles? Let me see if I can help you out. They're poles, really tall, made out of wood, and you're using them to worship a fertility goddess. A very tall pole. Yeah. You're not being dirty, you're being historically correct. Do you see what I'm saying here? God didn't like this for many, many reasons. This isn't really uncommon. This is actually still going on today, though I don't think people are literally worshiping penis statues. It still happens today. People parading around big penises. It's really weird. I'd show you my Google image searches, but I'm not gonna do that. Every time the Israelites return to God, one of the first things they do is destroy the Ashera poles, the high places, and the altars built for other gods. But God doesn't just say, hey, get rid of those things. He uses words like break, cut down, desecrate, dash, and burn. Burn them to the ground. Okay, God didn't say burn to the ground. I made that one up. But he did say burn. And in addition to the penis poles, he also wanted to get rid of anything built for the other gods. And why? Well, it's actually pretty easy to understand. I'm about to read one of the craziest scriptures in the Bible. Let's see what it says. They have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I did not command. In these high places, the Israelites and other people are burning their children as offerings to this fake God. God sees this and says, don't just stop, destroy the places that you're doing this. Now, fun fact, the word that Jesus often uses for hell, Gehenna, literally means the valley of Hinnom, this place where people were sacrificing their children to false gods. So what happens? All throughout Deuteronomy, and when the Israelites come back to God, we see that God tells them to destroy things. Let's look at some verses from Deuteronomy. And you shall break down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Ashera with fire. And you shall cut down the engraved images of the gods, and you shall destroy their name out of that place. So when the Israelites wanted to follow God, when they wanted to become good again, they destroyed the structures of their past. So that settles it, right? God said, destroy the penis poles, so we gotta destroy Christopher Columbus, right? Well, actually, no. Now, there is a huge difference between a statue of a slave owner, a statue of an explorer who exploited, a statue of a general who led a fight to preserve slavery, and then a pole to honor a false god, an altar built to murder children. These statues and the high places are completely different things. And secondly, and I know I might make some people mad when I say this, but it's true, so I'm going to say it anyway. There is a huge difference between the nation of Israel and the United States of America. The nation of Israel, it was a theocracy led by God. America is a constitutional representative democracy, whatever you want to say, but it's not led by God. America is not Israel, and it never will be. The Israelites destroying these altars is not the same thing as Americans destroying statues. So please don't accuse me of misunderstanding history or just being sloppy. But it's important to ask why. Why does God order that they destroy these things? Why do they destroy these structures when they choose to follow God? It's pretty simple. Our structures, they show our values. We make structures for people that we love. We paint murals for events that we don't ever want to forget. In America, our tallest buildings, our most expensive buildings, two different things. Business towers. America is a country of businesses. And then secondly, sports stadiums. Billions of dollars going to sports stadiums, many of them publicly financed. Why? Structures show our values, and Americans value sports. So now we're confronted with the statues in America. On one hand, these are the people that helped to build our country, to build our cities, to build our communities. But on the other hand, many of them were slave owners. Many of them made the slave trade worse, and there's nothing worse than that. But we need to ask a really important question. What do our statues say about us? In Acts, Paul notes that the Athenians built structures for every kind of god. They were intellectual and religious. In Israel, the entire religion focused around the temple. And what was in the temple? God's presence. If the statues in America are torn down, what does that say about us? If the statues are allowed to stay, what does that say about us? In the entire history of American cinema, only 3 times has Nicolas Cage been awesome. Moonstruck, Raising Arizona, and Adaptation. And Adaptation is written around the phrase, you are what you love. You are what you love. My biggest fear about American Christianity today is that we do love God, but we love other things a little bit more than God. We love God, but we love our safety. We love God, but we love the First Amendment more, or the Second Amendment more, or the 22nd Amendment more. We love God, but we love skiing on weekends a little bit more. We love God, but we love somebody else a little bit more. Or we love God, but we love our history more. If we love anything more than God, there's a word for that. You know what it is. It's idolatry. And though I don't believe that anybody's worshiping the statues or worshiping the destruction of the statues as they would a god, in many ways, our beliefs about the country, our beliefs about a system, our beliefs about history or a way of life have become the most loved thing in our lives. We love God, but we love our way of life more. And all of that comes from the worst lie that we are being told over and over again. It's that religion is a personal matter. Religion is a personal belief. It's a private matter. Politicians on every side all around the world say this so that they can say that they're a Christian, they can say that they're religious, but they don't have to act like it. The problem is this: if your religion is a personal matter, your religion doesn't matter. Everything is spiritual. So what matters ultimately to an American Christian? What qualities, what events, what structures do we love? We are what we love. The greatest episode of Breaking Bad is called Ozymandias, and the name for that comes from a poem by Percy Shelley. The poem, called Ozymandias, is about the king of Egypt, and there is a statue built, and the poem says that somebody came to describe the statue. All that's left was two legs sticking out in the desert. The head had fallen to the ground, but at the very bottom of the statue were these words: "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair." And what were his works? What was left? Shelley writes, "Nothing remains." The poem continues: "Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Ozymandias was the king of kings. He was probably the most powerful person in the world. So powerful that he got a statue made of him. And now there's two legs and a severed head. He's got a poem written about him, and the poem, it's about how empires die and how pride looks really bad when you're looking back on it later. Empires die. Also, America's not going to last forever. Neither will China or Indonesia or Singapore or Kenya. Shout out to my Kenyan friends. Thank you guys for subscribing, but Kenya won't last either. But it's a pretty good bet that our statues will last for a long time. What do our statues say about us? If we keep them up, if we tear them down, what does that say about us? As Christians, I care about being known for peace, forgiveness, and sacrificial love. So the answer to the question is this: should we keep the statues up or should we tear them down? The only thing that matters is what helps us to be known for peace, forgiveness, and sacrificial love, because that's what I want to be known for.